reflex and I belt stuff out while still being able to focus on the game, so, sorry if it sounds like I'm a broken record and you're just hearing the same thing over and over again, but practice is practice, it's part of the training regimen. So, welcome to Descent 2. Descent 2 is a old school shooter from 1996, so it recently just turned 20. One of the first things you'll probably notice with it compared to other shooters is that it is a 6 degrees of freedom game, which means you have a full movement and rotation in all 3 dimensions, on all 3 axes. It makes it pretty distinct from most shooters of the era. Something you'll probably notice right off the bat that I'm doing is I'm not really flying straight, I'm kind of pointing my destination in a diagonal, and that's because of something that was pretty common back in shooters back in the day. That is that your player character doesn't really have a set max speed. Instead, different directions just make him move in that direction at a set speed. So, like, you press forward, you go forward this fast. You press right, you go right this fast. You press down, you go down this fast. What this means is that if you combine all 3 axes together, you can actually get much faster movement than just flying on one axis. It is a little bit tricky. You do kind of have to get used to flying at a bit of an odd angle, but it does make you move roughly like 60 to 70% faster than just flying straight. Going a little out of my way to pick up a secret helix cannon there, because the helix cannon is probably the best primary weapon in the game. It has absolutely ridiculous damage output and absolutely chews through every single enemy in the early game, and even most of the enemies in the late game. The downside to it is it has pretty high energy consumption rate, and the afterburner, which I also picked up last level, which is going to let me get little bursts of extra speed, also uses the same energy pool. So I need to balance my use of energy weapons and the afterburner so that I don't ever run out of energy, and I can always be using my afterburner whenever possible, because obviously that's going to make me go faster. So yeah, for the first few levels, I'm going to have to be pretty careful with picking my battles and handling them in as few shots as possible, because if I use too much helix, I'm going to run out of energy before the end of the level, and I'm going to have absolutely no means to defend myself with. So this level also introduces a new enemy type, the Diamond Claw right there, which unfortunately just nailed me in that room pretty badly. Diamond Claws are melee type enemies. They like to be jerks, they like to block you and push you around and mess up your ship's main job. But more importantly, since the first game they kind of realized melee type enemies weren't really doing much, so they decided to give them a little buff. That is, whenever you hit them with energy type weapons, they have a chance to randomly counter with a burst of homing plasma. And so if they're in your face and you need to kill them, they're likely just going to counter with plasma that immediately hits you and does tons of damage, and on top of that, they have an increased explosive force on death compared to most other enemies, so if they're blowing up in your face, they're going to do damage then, too. So, Diamond Claws are something that you kind of need to deal with from a distance. Otherwise, what happens back there is, what's going to happen. So anyway, on to the first boss level. Robbie Station introduces the Lou Guards, which fire homing missiles. They're these green enemies right here. They're kind of jerks. This one especially is being a bit of a jerk and not letting me kill him and flying away. And there's 2 of them in that boss arena, which I want to kill before I go to fight the boss. That's worth noting that normally you have to do a lot of key running, running around and grabbing keys for this boss, but I have a little trick up my sleeve with these guided missiles. can manually pilot guided missiles to wherever you want. In this case, I'm piloting them around a few corners to get at a switch that's going to open up the arena doors early. And that's going to let me fight the boss earlier than intended. And it's going to let me skip most of the level. That said, I got to be careful here because I am very low on shields. But I can't reach the level's exit, but there's a secret level portal right there in the boss arena, which can also be used as a level exit. So, gonna let me exit no problem and move on to the next world, Quartzon. Now, Quartzon is the water world. Water physics don't really do much special. If you hit them with your ship, if you hit a water pool with your ship, you're just gonna get shaken around a little bit, not damaged or anything. But water also will nullify most of the explosive damage from missiles and stuff hitting it. Not really something that comes into play very often. So, for the most part, water can be pretty much ignored. Now that enemy right back there has a random chance to drop a cloaking device, which he did. Cloaking devices are going to let me sneak past most enemies, which is really handy for speedrunning. But that stealth aspect can be nullified at random by shooting your weapons, using the afterburner, or hitting walls. I also picked up a new primary weapon, which I'm using right now, the Gauss Cannon. The Gauss Cannon uses physical ammunition, Vulcan ammo, instead of energy, which is good for a lot of reasons. It means I can save all my energy for afterburning, and it also means that not an energy-based weapon, it doesn't trigger Diamond Claw's plasma counter. So I can pretty safely take out Diamond Claws from a distance. Bad news is it is explosive type damage, so if there's a Diamond Claw already in my face, I'm still going to be blowing myself up trying to kill them with that. It's not any better than using the Helix Cannon. So, right after that first appearance of the cloaking device, we're going to be getting another use of them right up here. Just going a little out of my way to pick one up here. It's well worth the time. It's going to let me skip past a lot of enemies here, and also being cloaked means, for obvious reasons, that homing weapons can't lock onto you. So, what that means is I'm going to be able to use my Helix Cannon against these Diamond Claws, and their plasma counter is just going to kind of spew in random directions, not really pose much of a threat. It's going to let me burst them down a little more quickly. So, pretty short level right here. Not much to say about it. Next level, though, it does kind of have a bit of an interesting thing in its design. There is a secret switch hidden in a drain. And it opens up a passage that's going to let me skip a couple of keys, so kind of an intended secret sequence break to this level. A little bit of a hard time hitting it. There we go. So what that is going to do for me is going to let me skip the blue and yellow keys and skip straight to grabbing the red one. Also worth noting in this level is introducing a new enemy type right here. The Seekers have mercury missiles, which are pretty deadly. They're very fast-moving, very damaging dumbfire missiles. And the enemies themselves are pretty bulky. But I'm going to be trying to kill them when I get the chance, and they're in my path, because mercury missiles, as I just mentioned, are pretty deadly, so if they'll drop some for me to use, that's certainly a good thing. But yeah, the secret sequence break there, just letting me power through this level very quickly. And there's another one in the boss level, Riverbed Mine, right here. And exact same deal, gonna open up a wall that's gonna let me go straight to the red key. Another trigger skip here, kind of like back 3 levels ago, I can barely touch the red key. Then a wall here that would normally spawn will fail to spawn, and I'm just free to head straight to the exit. Yep, that cloaking device is going to make this boss very trivial. It's not going to be able to do much to retaliate. And Felix is just going to chew through him like crazy. And with that, we're on to World 3, which is also, in my opinion, the hardest world in the game, Brimspark. Brimspark is the lava-themed world. And as you would probably guess, lava kind of hurts. And it doesn't just hurt when you touch it, either. Any weapon that touches lava, any shots that hit lava, will cause the lava to splash up and damage any nearby targets. So, even if you dodge shots, even if you dodge attacks from enemies, there's lava in the area, splashback is probably still going to damage you, so you gotta be really careful around lava pools. Worth noting that pretty much every one of any cloaked enemies in the game has a random chance to drop a cloaking device. I got really lucky in this level, and both of the ones in my route dropped them, so I'm going to have a pretty easy finish, and I'm probably going to end up with lots of shields coming out of this level, which is good, because the next level, Lava Falls Extraction Center, pretty certain I would say is the hardest level in the game. And having an extra shield going into it is going to be really beneficial. I grab this extra cloak. Use the shield to energy to shield converter I picked up back in level 6 to convert some extra energy past 100 into shields. A little damage short from the
Self-destruct sequence activated.
This cloak should let me sneak through to the exit pretty quickly. Lots of extra shield drops. And we're on to Lava Falls Extraction Center. As I mentioned, one of the hardest levels in the game. Introduces a new melee-type enemy, the E-Bandit, which, as you might guess, when he attacks you, steals some of your energy, which is needless to say, it's pretty devastating. Okay, that was one of the tougher rooms right there, and I managed to get out with a pretty high amount of shields, so we're in pretty good shape for this level so far. So, all the keys in this level are held by enemies, but hopefully finding the cloak with a little bit of a long-range snipe, we can snipe out the yellow keybot without him getting away, and was able to pull it off just fine, so I'm in very good shape now. It's worth noting that even with this invulnerability, those E-Bandits can still steal energy from me, so I'm going to be trying to avoid them whenever possible. Potential for an RNG-based cloaking device drop coming up here. And I did get it. So this is going to make this portion of the level considerably easier. Sure not to accidentally leave the cloaking device, or the red key behind this time. I saw a cloaking... There it is. I want this cloak. Let's do a little more energy conversion. Okay, so we're past most of the tough parts of this level. Just a little bit left to clear it out. And this has been a very, very good Lava Falls Extraction Center so far. Grab the safety shield up here, because that Smatty here just did a lot of damage to me. Those big yellow enemies, generally referred to as gold fatties, or yellow fatties, they're huge bulk. They're pretty much the largest common enemy in the game. Pretty dangerous, introduced in this level, but yeah, generally gonna be trying to avoid most of them. So that's the hardest level in the game out of the way. Very glad it went over pretty well. Okay, so now we're going to be using a glitch involving quad lasers to skip most of this level. When you pick up the upgraded quad lasers, obviously, your base lasers get upgraded from firing 2 shots to 4. Those 2 additional shots are a little odd in that they spawn slightly forward of your ship instead of just like, you know, right next to the other 2 shots. And that lets you clip those additional shots through walls and doors. So if you have a locked door with a switch to unlock it immediately on the other side, you can use the quad lasers to shoot that switch from the other side of the door. And that's going to let me skip the blue key, save a lot of time this level. It's good stuff. So not much special to talk about with the rest of this level. Although I am taking a pretty nasty beating. Gonna go out of my way for some extra shields here. So I'm gonna talk about the next level, because next level needs some explanation. Next level is the boss level of Grimspark. It's called Magna Core Station, and it's also the largest level in the game, with the highest number of overall item pickups and enemy count and enemy spawns. And as such, as you can probably guess, it would involve a lot of backtracking, a lot of long travel time. So, I kind of want to use some more death warps, like I did back in the first level, to save some time. But, as I've mentioned, dying causes you to drop all your items and respawn with nothing. And we have a lot more items than we did in the first level, so don't really want to lose everything. So I'm going to start the level off by immediately suiciding in the starting room just to store my gear for later. But, being the largest level in the game, dropping all my items right there kind of overflows an internal limit that the game has on how many entities can be spawned at once. So you're going to be noticing something odd maybe happening. If this Diamond Claw will let me through. There we go. And that is, you're going to see sometimes mine shots or enemy shots not going to be spawning. And that's because of that internal entity limit. With it being, you know, with the game running out of space to spawn things, sometimes it just decides not to spawn attacks. It's going to be affecting both me and enemies, but more noticeably, it's not really going to be doing much to affect melee-type enemies like Diamond Claws and E-Bandits, which makes them that much deadlier in this case, because very frequently if I get stuck on them, I'm not going to be able to retaliate, because my weapons are going to have a hard time shooting. So I'm going to be doing everything I can to try and avoid getting stuck in narrow corridors involving those enemies, because that can really kill my run. That said, looks like we're past all the narrow corridors on this portion of the run, so just gotta get this yellow key, and then we'll death warp back to the start. That we don't have to backtrack through all of those rooms. This Diamond Claw, unfortunately, being kind of in the way. Gotta lure him out and get around him. And yeah, for the red key, you're gonna have to see me having to manipulate a lot of movement from Diamond Claws and E-Bandits, because there are a lot of them in the path, on this path. One more E-Bandit to get around. Barely kind of squeezing past him. And here's the red key. Just another death warp right at the start. So this boss is immune to the Helix Cannon, so he's not going to go down nearly as quickly as the last two. And he fires Mega Missiles, which are pretty darn dangerous. But he does have a max range, so if we can stay outside of that max range and just snipe him from a distance, he won't retaliate, and that'll make the fight pretty trivial. But he does teleport randomly, and sometimes he can choose to teleport like pretty much directly in front of your face. So hopefully he doesn't do that, because it's a bad time when he does that. Could be almost dead. Yep, there he goes. Pick up a few stray missiles while waiting for him to explode. And that's Brimspark. On the Lime Frost Spiral, right off the bat, we have one more use of the quad laser glitch. Shoot this door open from the other side. And that actually makes this level the shortest level in the game.
Self-destruct sequence activated.
That's even shorter than the first level in the entire game. No key collections whatsoever. You just go straight to the exit. That's all there is to it. So, anyway, Lime Frost Spiral, meant to kind of be an ice level, but seeing as it's kind of hard to work ice physics into a free flight game, there really isn't anything special about this world. Mostly just means that everything's kind of blue and white colored. So, no nasty hazards in the form of lava pits or anything like that that we saw in the previous world. This world's mostly going to be pretty straightforward. So right there, grabbing a cloaking device, which is going to make most of this level pretty trivial. Grab him a little extra shield here. Took a little bit of a beating early on. Little trigger skip here if I just barely touch the red key. Prevents a couple enemies, enemy traps from being opened up behind me. Nothing major, but it is a little bit helpful. Worth noting, though, that those hallways of force fields, those blue bars, be really careful with your movement in there, because when you touch a force field, you get bounced back, and you take damage. And when it's a hallway, with force fields on both sides, it'll bounce you back and forth very rapidly and kill you. Taking a secret level portal here as the exit, not because I have to, but it is a lot closer than the normal exit. Doing another suicide here to store my gear. The blue, yellow, and red keys are all pretty far away from the starting point, but the red door is right near the beginning, so don't want to have to do the backtracking after I'm done with the keys. All side trip for an afterburner here. Grabbing the spread fire cannon there, it's the best weapon available to me on my path here. Only time you're going to see me using it, because it's pretty much a strictly worse Helix cannon. I guess it costs less energy, but that's about it. But it's better than my basic lasers, so I'll be using it very briefly. Now hopefully there's a cloaking device drop I can potentially get from the enemy here. And I failed to get it, so I need to be very careful in this next portion. Because now this section is normally pretty trivial because that cloaking device is a very common drop. But not being lucky this time around. But looks like we're going to squeeze past all the remaining enemies, and there's our red key. So now, right back to the start, we collect all the gear, and onto the reactor room. Vulnerability here going to make this, this whole trek to the reactor room pretty trivial. So I'll start talking about the next level. Next level is the boss level for Line Across Spiral, Terror Across Catacombs. It's a pretty dangerous level in some cases. So the boss in itself is pretty tough. It's another boss that's immune to the Helix Cannon, and actually to energy weapons in general. So gonna have to gauze it down. And also has the ability to inflict the temporary blindness effect of flash missiles, and a lot of its shots are homing and very fast moving, so pretty hard to dodge. But this level has a pretty high abundance of cloaking devices, so we have plenty of tools at our disposal to kind of cheese them out. So everyone who played this as a kid had nightmares about how difficult this boss was. You'll see Eddie's actually not that tough. It's also worth noting that this level has kind of a secret sequence break, kind of like a couple of the water levels did. But it requires a guided missile, and it's really hard to execute. And it's a little time-consuming to execute as well. And I'm pretty positive that even with perfect execution, you would probably still be losing time as opposed to just taking the traditional intended route. So that's exactly what we're doing here. Pretty straightforward. Doing the level as intended. That's all there is to it. Grabbing the invulnerability here. It's going to make most of the rest of the level pretty straightforward. It's going to be able to blow right past everything. Being vulnerable and cloaked, obviously making absolutely nothing worth worrying about. Cloaking device about to wear off, but there's another one right here. So, since I have a cloak, all those homing shots are not really concerned, just kind of got to do a little circle strafe to make sure nothing hits me. Getting a little bit of splash from the flash missiles, but that's just fine. Those are pretty light on the damage. And we are on to the fifth world, Glorious Prime. Right off the bat, this first key is held by an enemy, and I need to try and keep him from getting away from me. And I succeeded. Which is very good. It's a little bit RNG based, whether you can kill him before he activates and runs away. But thankfully my strat working out this time. Thankfully, that first key is the only one held by a bot in this area, in this level, so I'm just going to be able to go and pick up the keys otherwise. We'll be touching on another glitch coming up. This game has a system that allows you to place markers down that'll mark, points of interest on your minimap. These markers, while they appear while they have a physical appearance, they show up to you when you look at them as little green diamonds. They don't have any collision, you can just fly straight through them, and nothing really happens. But, if you place them in a doorway, it will keep the doors from closing, which is helpful here, because this door locks from the outside once it closes again. And it forces you to go through a much more dangerous route, directly through an enemy spawn point. So, we don't want to have to do that if we can avoid it. And we're going to do just that. Avoid it. So, the whole kind of theme of Glorious Prime as a world is just kind of odd, non-linear design. It can be a little bit hard to follow, but as a speedrunner, we obviously know exactly where we need to be going. And so that's not going to be a problem. Most of the levels in World 5 are going to be pretty quick. nice random cloak drop there from that enemy. Gonna make the next part of this level pretty easy to execute, at least in theory. Picking up the most powerful, or at least what the game considers the most powerful, primary and secondary weapons right there. The Mega Cannon and the Earthshaker Missile. Earthshaker Missile is pretty good. We're going to be using it against the final boss. But you don't really want to use it in normal rooms because it has a huge devastating blast radius. You're very likely to blow yourself up. Mega Cannon, on the other hand, the game thinks it's the most powerful, but it's honestly pretty bad, and you're not going to see it getting used at all. So, hate to break it to any fans of the Mega Cannon, but no love for it here.
Self-destruct sequence activated.
Next level in the Phylum Scrub particularly re-emphasizes the whole maze-like nature of this world. But, again, knowing where exactly to go, and being able to ignore all the looping paths and pointless locked doors, it's actually a pretty short level, and with not too many threatening enemies. As I say that, though, taking a lot of damage early on here, though. Thankfully, most of the enemy types in this level do have a chance of dropping additional shields, which I'm getting a fair amount of those. So anyway, I'm going to start talking about the next level, because this reactor room is generally pretty trivial. The next level is called Get Out Station, and as the name suggests, a big defining feature of it is the escape sequence after destroying the boss. It's a very long sequence with lots of dangerous enemies in it, in very narrow corridors where they're hard to get around. But, like the first boss level in the game, there is a secret level portal right in the boss arena, and it's going to be a lot quicker and a lot safer to be using that over trying to take the traditional exit route. So, naturally I'm going to be doing exactly that. As for the boss itself, this boss is actually kind of a bit of an invert from the last two. This boss is immune to the Gauss Cannon, and must be fought using energy weapons. So, you're going to need a lot of energy, but thankfully the level kind of forces you straight through an energy center right here, so you can have no problem getting up to full energy for this fight. And that'll make fighting him pretty straightforward. The fact that I got a lucky cloak drop right before the fight also is going to make it a lot easier because yeah, his plasma counters spawn. It's just kind of spew aimlessly everywhere, so no worries about it hitting me. And we're on to the last world in the game as soon as we finish exiting this secret level. And we're going to start off with one last guided missile sequence break. And also one last opportunity for the thief bot to troll me, because he's in this room and can block my missiles. But he didn't, so we're good. This last world introduces a lot of very dangerous enemy types. Most notably the boar's head right there. One of those ones I just killed. They shoot smart missiles. Smart missiles are painful. Very painful. They're they're a dumbfire missile that then splits into a lot of homing plasma globs. And if you eat the full brunt of one, you're going to be hurting a lot. Which exactly that happened back by that red key up there. And you can see that I had dropped down from pretty much full shield down to about 30. So, yeah, it's a pretty bad time. Alright, so, but that guided missile trick I did in the beginning, letting me skip, getting pinned against the floor by that E-Bandit, unfortunately, losing a lot of shield. Gonna have to be really careful here. I just saved there for a reason. Not too surprised that that happened. I'll be playing a little bit safe, taking out a couple extra enemies here, hoping for some shield drops. Unfortunately, going to be losing a little time here due to all that. Getting a little bit of shield drops though, so that's good.
Self-destruct sequence activated.
So the next level coming up is going to be the last death warps in this game, in this route. Yellow door right by the start of the level, yellow key very far away. So you can guess what that means. Oof, that kind of hurts. Lots of boar's heads in very tight corridors and situations right at the beginning, so they can be pretty hard to deal with. Not too surprised I got nailed by that. So anyway, I want to drop my gear off right here by the yellow door. So yeah, unfortunately I have to do this part of the run on basic weapons, but not too much I have to fight here. And then just that one boar's head that I use that smart line pack to take care of, and then blue guard up here. And it's no big deal if I take lots of damage there, because I want to die up here anyway. Grab the L key, and warp straight back to the start. No problem. A little out of my way to get a cloak here. Gonna make assaulting the reactor a lot easier. The reactor has a door that locks from the inside, so ideally I want to kill him and get out of the door before the door closes again. Hopefully I can pull that off. That kind of got knocked around a little bit, so not quite making it. Gotta do a little bit of a puzzle there to open the wall back up. We're barely making it out of here alive. But alright, so we're on to the second to last level. This level is called I Wimmel, and it's supposedly an acronym for I wish I had more lights, and it's a reference to the fact this level has no energy pickups or energy stations whatsoever. So I'm going to be relying entirely on gauze and missiles for this level, up until the ending where I'll use my helix to take out the boss. This is a very smooth overroll. This is really good. And this boar's head right up here always drops an invulnerability. Can make the rest of the level pretty easy.
sequence activated.
And we're on to the final level of the game, which is actually one of the easier levels in the game. It's much smaller than the cutscene before it would lead you to believe. And most of the keys are all condensed into pretty small areas. So the blue and yellow keys, both being right up here, very close together in very small rooms. And the red key being right in another small room, right next to the red door. Invulnerability going to carry me through most of the first part of the level, and then there's an invulnerability in the boss arena. So, not too much to worry about. So at this point, just need to make my way to the invulnerability up here. This boss is unique in that he can only be damaged from behind. So just gotta move around behind him. Give him everything we got. And he goes down pretty quickly. Especially with those shaker missiles. And that's it.
Material Defender, this is Dravis. Our long-range telemetry is detecting a
And that is Descent
energy
2.
spike from the planetoid. We recommend
That was a
you
pretty decent
evacuate
run.
immediately.
Couple of rough spots. Mainly definitely. This is still a little bit rusty, obviously, but I think I'm pretty getting pretty solid on the commentary.
Readings I'm getting on this
Even with
base
those
aren't consistent
those
with any of the
major
others I've
failings,
destroyed.
still
It's
going
actually
way under
moving.
my 45-minute
Maintaining
estimate.
speed
So
and heading just like a starship.
I think I'm in good shape on
Now,
that
whatever
front.
this thing is, it's getting ready to blow itself to pieces. Good. No more. I'm done. All that's left is to go home, get my money, and sleep for the next 2 years. Valhalla Tower, this is Vertigo 1. I'm starting the jump pre-sequence and returning home.
Acknowledged, Material Defender. Hurry home. We have business to discuss.
What? Malfunctioning? No, this can't be happening. This isn't happening.
Valhalla, warp drive is malfunctioning. Repeat, warp drive is malfunctioning. It's certain there are words taking me. Abort jump, repeat, abort jump. I can't! Material Defender, report your status. Repeat, report your status. Material Defender, report your location.
Alright, well, at this point, I think I'm gonna call it there on Descent 2 for now. Pretty happy with how that run went. There's still gonna be a lot more de-rusting to be had. I honestly think I could probably get it with a consistent play again. Get it back down to sub 40 pretty consistently. But I'm gonna have time for now. So hopefully this will be suitable as a submission video. 39:56 in-game time. Gonna be continuing to practice on that to, you know, shake off some more of the rest, but yeah, by SGDQ, definitely gonna have no problem being consistently far below this 45-minute estimate I'm gonna be putting up. Hopefully we'll be even, you know, a little closer to this 37-minute time. That's my current record, if not even lower, because I mean, some of the best 34 minutes, so obviously I can still push this down.